John Robson is my guest. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
Hey, good. And you're in Ottawa, Canada, I understand. Is that correct?
Yep, you can hear the pitter-patter of tax dollars behind me if you listen carefully.
I hear them. Yes, I do. Now, you're a filmmaker. You're a journalist. I think you're with the National Post and where else?
With CFRA Radio here in Ottawa.
Okay. And you make movies or documentaries. And I know you made one here, when? A couple of years ago about the Magna Carta. When did you do that?
We did that one. That was released this year for the 800th anniversary.
Oh, okay.
And before that, I did one on the 100th anniversary of World War I when I was with Sun News Network. And I discovered that making documentaries and telling stories is really important, and it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah. What are you doing now? What's your current one?
The next one is on the Canadian right to bear arms. We're in the process of crowdfunding it. For some reason, groups like the CBC aren't rushing to hire us. But it's part of this whole notion that Canadians are independent people. We have the right to look after ourselves. We have the ability to look after ourselves. And it's high time the government stopped treating us like children. It's not our history. You look at the people who settled this country, whether you're talking about from Europe or from the Aboriginals. They carried weapons as a matter of course. They knew how to use them. They were careful with them, but they would never have believed you if you'd said, you shouldn't have that thing. A bow and arrow, it's too dangerous for you.
But your documentary, though, is about the past. It's not about the present, because the present is we're not allowed to carry guns or look after ourselves. So the purpose of your documentary is to tell people what used to happen, and hopefully they can get a new take on what should happen. Is that kind of where you are?
Exactly, because we need to get our story back. The critical thing that's wrong in Canada right now is that we've forgotten who we are, where we came from. We've forgotten that we're born out of Magna Carta, that Britain is the mother of the free, and our national anthem says it, we're the true north, strong and free. How did freedom become a bad word in this country?
Well,
the freedom
politicians.
to own property, to speak your mind.
Well,
what happened to it?
Politicians is what happened. Left-wing politicians and right-wing ones that call themselves that don't have minds, they're fools. Basically, that's what's happened. But I'm with you. I mean, how do we fix it? Is that what you're doing in your documentary? You're looking for the foundation of fix? Or is it strictly like a history lesson? People look at it and they watch and say, isn't this cool? We used to be able to do that. It's like a buggy whip. We used to have buggies and horses and things, and then they go on. Or is there some kind of a correction thing going on here? Is that what you're looking to do?
Definitely a correction thing, because again, if you remember your story, if you remember your legacy, and you understand, as we did with Magna Carta, to say we are people who literally from time immemorial have defined ourselves by our right to control our government, our right not to be taxed without our consent, which is in Magna Carta, our right to own property, our right to due process, then when you stand up and say we should have these things, people say, oh, you're not Canadian. Say, yes, I am. This is the essence of Canada. It's you who would treat us like sheep, who are not the real Canadians.
But who says that, John? I don't think the people say that. Is it the press? Is the mainline press the problem, or mainstream press? Who's the problem here?
I think to some extent the problem is what I would call the chattering classes, the politicians, the mainstream press you call them, the academics, the people who talk loudly at cocktail parties. I mean, people like me, except I'm not one of them in that respect. But people have allowed themselves to be sold on this vision. And I'll tell you, when we decided to do the Magna Carta documentary, we decided we'd crowdfund it. And a lot of people said, you can't do that. Canadians are passive. They don't give to that kind of thing. And we said, I'll bet you're wrong. And so we said, we're telling the story of the people's freedom. We think the people will back it. And more than 1,200 people did, any amount. Some people gave us over $1,000. Some people gave us $5. They all get their name in the documentary saying, we remember that we're free people. And we're doing this again. And then people said, how are you going to distribute it? Are you going to find a broadcaster? We said, no. The people who backed the documentary get copies. They share it with their friends and family. We tell ourselves our own story, and that's how we get it back.
How long of a show is the Canada's right to bear arms? Is it half an hour, an hour? What are you going to edit it down to?
You know what? That actually depends still upon the response to the campaign. We said if we get $40,000, we can make an hour-long documentary. We're hoping to get more. If we get 60 or 70, we're going to go back probably to England to film some of it. We'll make it 90 minutes. The Magna Carta documentary is 2 hours. It's a full feature documentary that includes footage from Runnymede, from the tomb of bad King John, all this kind of stuff. We went down to Boston to talk about the Boston Tea Party. We went to the site where the Upper Canada Rebellion, that pivotal battle, took place in Toronto. We want to make a full-length documentary, but if we're going to do that, we're at 70% of our minimal target right now. We've got $28,000 pledged. We need people to step up with any sum that they can manage. As I say, $5, $10, $50, whatever you've got that you think is worth putting your vote behind us still being a free people.
What do they do? If I want to give you money through crowdfunding, what do I do? What's the site address?
You go to the website is arighttoarms.com, and that'll take you to the Kickstarter site. If you want to pledge in Kickstarter, you do have to sign in and give them a credit card number, but you won't be billed until we make our target. And if we don't make our target, you don't pay any money. There are also options via PayPal or a check if you find Kickstarter to be odd in some way.
So I give you money.
One thing is, if we don't make our target, we don't get any money. So we do ask people to consider the Kickstarter option. It's all or nothing.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So if I give you money, what do I get? Do I just a privilege, which is a good privilege? I get that, but I'm just asking, what do I get? Do I get a prize in the mail, or do I just get to watch a show? The good news is, of course, that you will be able to do the show, and I think that's enough. But is there anything else?
Oh yeah, there are prizes in the mail. It depends on the level of support. Anybody who supports us at any level gets their name in the credits, and you should see politicians' faces when those credits start rolling, by the way. Yeah. But if you put in more, you get a free digital download of it, or you'll get a DVD, or at a higher level, you'll get a Blu-ray and one of our earlier documentaries. All these things are laid out on the Kickstarter site. But in any case, we will put it on YouTube for free once we make it. It is funded ahead of time. We don't need to sell it. So that means other people can see it. You can share it. It'll tell your story, because that's the critical thing you get. If you understand that Canadians are a free and independent people who were not given safety rules by government when they got into their canoes and so on, then you want to tell the story. You want to be able to have other people grasp what you know about our real heritage. And that's the main thing you get, is to tell the true story of Canada and cut through the nonsense and the chatter.
Yeah. So when you speak of right to bear arms, what does arms mean? Is that just guns? Is that firearms? Or are you talking bow and arrows and axes and golf clubs in your car? What do you mean by that?
It is any tool needed to exercise your natural right to self-defense. And it goes back literally to the end of Roman Britain. When the legions pulled out of Britain, the council got together and they wrote to the emperor and they said, gee whiz, we noticed you pulled out. We're a bit anxious. We're going to organize for our own defense. And we thought we should mention it. Also, we are going to repeal your rule against free people having weapons. You were allowed to carry them when you were hunting or traveling, but otherwise you couldn't. And they said to the Romans, that is a mark of a servile person, and we aren't going to do that anymore. Yeah. If you look at England under Edward I, they insisted that every able-bodied man practice archery. You were expected to be able to defend yourself with the tools of the day. But now, you're not even allowed to buy pepper spray for self-defense except against wild animals. I mean, what is this? That you can't carry, a woman cannot carry pepper spray who has to walk through a dark parking lot in a possibly unsavory neighborhood because she's struggling to make ends meet. Because it's better in the grand social justice scheme of things that she should be assaulted and then get counseling than that she should deal with an attacker.
But that is a liberal thing, John. That is a liberal thing. It's not just about defense. I mean, the Canadian people do not have a voice. I mean, it's a bad thing, but the majority doesn't matter. I mean, we can use numbers all day long. About 80% of all Canadians want to have capital punishment. 80% of politicians don't want it. You don't have it. And abortion, 75% of Canadians are against it. Politicians are in favor of it, so you have it. And there's a long list of things. I don't know that it matters so much about what we want, does it? How do we fix that? I mean, I get what you're doing. I think it's wonderful. By the way, we're talking about everything that happened before and where we are now and how do we get back to where we used to be. How do you do that with the politicians that we have? How's that going to happen?
Well, one of the things that struck me very much making the Magna Carta documentary, time and again, government challenged people's liberty. Somebody would stand up and say, this isn't right, and other people stood up with them, and they knew this would happen. But now Canadians have this feeling, oh, I'm alone, I'm a weirdo, I'm hiding in my basement thinking this. And a critical part is to share the story and understand that a lot of us feel this way. A lot of us are impatient being told we have to carry a flashlight in a canoe by ourselves in the middle of the day on a buoyant heaving line. What am I going to do? Smash my canoe into a rock so fast I'm hurled out of it, and then my other self will throw me the rope?
Well,
It's ridiculous, and yet we take this
yeah.
being told, oh, you got to wear bicycle helmets. Well, how would I decide whether to wear a bicycle helmet? And a lot of us know it's nonsense, but we tend to be shouted down or talked over. And it's really important that we should remind ourselves that this is who we are and how we feel. That across this country there are people who think these restrictions on our basic right to defend ourselves. And the way the police respond if you exercise your legal right, they often try to treat you as though you were a criminal.
Oh, yeah, no
but the
question.
more we remind one another that we are this kind of person, that this country was not settled by wimps, the more we will realize that we can count on one another
Well,
to
John,
stand up against political correctness.
our people that run the country, well, firstly, we're led by fools, and they're cowards on top of it all. So the good news is that when it comes to self-defense, at least, most Canadians are already criminals in waiting, because men still do remain men, for the most part. I mean, men actually have guns in the bedstand. Men actually have bats under the bed. Men actually have golf clubs in the car. And men are actually, not just men, women too. But it's a sad day where the government is, making criminals out of its own citizens because they don't trust us. We're too stupid to look after ourselves. You and I are on exactly the same page. I'm more solution driven, though. How do we fix it? How do we fix it? I know we have to have a politician to talk like we talk. It's got to be from inside, because we're all busy trying to feed our wives, kids, and buy cat food every day, and we only talk and we don't do it. We need a politician. Who can that be? If I'm right, and we need a politician to lead a party to actually have that voice, which is our voice, who is that? I don't see anybody there that's capable of talking like a Donald Trump kind of a guy in Canada. Would that work? Who is that?
Well, I mean, I think Donald Trump is admired for his forthrightness, but I think a lot of what he says is goofy. Mm-hmm. But, politicians, remember Ralph Klein once said, show me a big enough parade and I'll get in front of it. We need to create a parade because they won't do it. Stephen Harper, for 9 years, governed with a paper bag over his head, trying to move the country right by stealth because he didn't actually believe that people would back him. And he blew it, big time. You look at what happens when somebody really runs as a right-winger, like Mulroney in '84, Oregon Free Trade in '88, they win. When they start apologizing, moving to the left and saying, gee whiz, those conservatives are a bunch of yokels, they get flattened. But it happens time and again. You look at who the Ontario government, the Ontario Tories have run year after year, or you look what just happened in Alberta. We need to stiffen the spines of politicians because they're rubber. They won't do it themselves, and we can't ask somebody to come along and do it for us. But that's not the Canadian way. We do it. We make them do it. We don't wait for the government.
And you keep working at it.
We make it follow our dictates.
And this is what I do every day on my show, rightedition.com. Same thing as what you're doing all of the time. We're trying to get people out of the ether and politicians also, so let's just keep doing that. Let's get back to your movie. Tell me about the movie. If it's an hour show, the documentary, I should say, what's it about? Tell me where you start, give me the middle, and give me the ending of it. Your elevator
It starts
pitch.
with the current situation. Say the Canadians are told that it is not our way to stand up for yourself, that gun ownership is an American concept.
So it's very
but this
political.
is wrong. It's a mistelling of our history. And then it goes back to explain that at the time of Confederation, the ownership of weapons was considered, again, the mark of a free and independent person. It was widespread. You go back further in our history, and it is both natural and even sometimes government encouraged. They want a militia. They want people to use arms. The only people they disarm are people they're planning to do dirt to, like the Indians. Mm-hmm. And then we go back to England and look at this whole history of a free and independent people fighting for their rights. And then we come back forward and talk about how the world has changed and how it's made things worse. And then we deal with arguments like, oh, well, if people have guns, they slaughter one another. Look at the United States. And we'll talk about how you look at patterns of gun ownership in America and in the world, and they don't correlate with violence. There are some Canadian provinces where the rate of murder is higher than the neighboring American states, where gun ownership is absolutely commonplace.
So you have a lot of statistics, you have a lot of stats in the show, like you're talking about this country and that country, comparing always, or what are you doing? Like, is this just political, or is this, like, it's informative, I get all of that, but how political are you? Like, are you in with all the numbers and politicians? Do you name them in Canada, who's in favor of and who isn't? Like Harper, for instance, voted against all kinds of things that favor gun people, and do you reference that in your book?
Well, the specific partisan stuff, I'm not going to worry too much about.
Huh? Well,
we're going to have some numbers, but it's not going to be a drink from a fire hydrant, obviously. We want to use them to illuminate, not inundate.
Okay.
But you have to talk about this stuff. I mean, the United States, yes, it's near the top in the world in gun violence, but if you look at it internationally in terms of murder rate, it's around the middle. There are countries with much stricter gun control and far higher murder rates because guns don't kill people. People kill people. Yeah. And you look back at Victorian England, where it was absolutely ordinary for people to own weapons, and yet the rates of violence were quite low. And then again, you look, there are something like 3/4 of American counties don't have a single murder in a year. And yet people there are allowed concealed carry. There are guns in a majority of homes in many of these places. But it's not true that we are homicidal maniacs just waiting to gun each other down, or such fools that given a gun will blast each other by accident. And we should resent that image in the mind of our government. As I said in my National Post column on this, the government doesn't have the right to mistrust us. We have the right to mistrust it, and this is upside down. And all of this will be in the documentary to explain that the logic, the history, the emotional tone, everything about denying us the right to defend ourselves is wrong, and it's a betrayal of our heritage.
Well, then we want you to make a documentary. Again, to go to your website, give us the address again.
It's arighttoarms.com. And that will take you to our Kickstarter site if you choose to go there.
Well, I hope everybody does. Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure talking to you. We're just singing from the same page. I mean, maybe the government one day will respect its citizenry. We'll see. As you said, I guess if we make enough noise, maybe they'll start to follow us because we're the ones that should be in charge. So we can only hope, and let's keep on doing what we're doing. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing that show.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, bye-bye. Canadian gun owners know that innocent gun owners are often charged anyway by overzealous police people for improper storage of guns and or ammunition, transportation of either, and of course the use of a gun, use of a firearm. And Canada's firearm legislation is very, very complicated, and the police who try to enforce those rules, sometimes they create rules on the fly. Often their interpretation of the law is certainly different than the actual law, and they have an agenda, many of them. And again, some of them are overzealous. It's very expensive to defend yourself against a charge. $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. The rich, they can afford it. They have money. The poor, they get legal aid. The middle class, the masses of the great unwashed, we can't afford that kind of money. What do? Hey, finally, firearm legal defense. It's an insurance product, $95 a year. It gives you $100,000 per incident with no deductible of legal bills paid. So you're defended now for licensed gun owners in Canada. In addition to that, it pays your court costs. It also pays you to take time off of work to go to court and get defended properly with a qualified gun lawyer. 24/7, you get to phone that lawyer and say, hey, not $500 an hour anymore. You're part of my policy, part of my premium. Can I take an antique gun with me to the other end of the country to a wedding this weekend? And he'll tell you if you can or if you can't. You'll feel good at the end of it. He's a qualified lawyer. You're a qualified gun owner. You now have protection. Firearm legal defense. It's unique. No one else offers this service. Gun clubs, gun associations, and organizations have liability insurance. There's other insurance policies for theft of guns and so on. This is the only product, the only insurance product that provides legal fee coverage for you, plus the 24/7 with a lawyer. Sign up. It's a great policy. As a licensed gun owner in Canada, you need this. Be protected.